That is carried. The water care update, agenda item 14, and I invite water care to the table. Thank you very much, and I am going to rely on the assurance I have received from Mr. Potter that this presentation will not exceed 10 minutes.
We will whistle through, Madam Chair.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So in the interest of time, we'll assume the paper is read, but we'll pick out a few highlights as we go through to keep it to 10 minutes or maybe even less if we can be really productive. So yeah, let's just flick over the overview. We just talk about some of the projects that we just want to highlight. So typically in the past, the Central Interceptor project has taken a lot of the airtime to the committee. CI is largely ramping down. Still has 12 months to go, but it's not as much as our capital program these days. So I wanted to highlight a few other projects that we've got underway. The Aoraki main sewer is a very tricky piece of work where we're relining a 100-year-old sewer. You can see we've got a gentleman inside this pipe, and those are what we call grout lines. So we're installing a plastic liner on the inside and then grouting up with cement concrete on the outside. This is to provide some additional strength and resiliency to a 100-year-old sewer. At the same time, there's the body of work looking at the aged Aoraki main sewer across the network as to how we can or what we need to do from a rehabilitation point of view or a replacement point of view. Priyan, you want to add anything there?
Yeah, so that the sewer itself is quite broad, so we are looking holistically at the entire sewer renewal as a potential option, whether that's a replacement via another tunnel or, as David's described, methodologies that allow us to keep the existing asset going. So we'll look to optimise an approach, but that is going to take us some time.
Next slide, please. So one project to touch base quickly on is the Wellsford wastewater treatment plant works. This is an increase and an upgrade to an existing treatment plant, and it's using technology that we're actually using in other places across the catchments. We have a very similar plant going in at Clark's Beach, and also there'll be another one at Waiku. And so if we can have a consistent implementation of the same technology, it's going to be more efficient in terms of how we deliver the work, and obviously more efficiencies, we can get the work done quicker. So we're doing similar technology at Wellsford and Clark's Beach at the moment.
Yes, just to reiterate David's message, so we actually tested this technology in Te Kaupata as part of the work we were doing at the Waikato District Council. We've gained significant confidence in this. We've actually found that it's performing better than we anticipated. So we are absolutely moving now to a standardised delivery for these smaller scale schemes in the smaller communities around Auckland, and also provides potential options for the rest of the country. So we're actually absolutely building a standardised design that we can roll out around not only Tāmaki but also the country.
Next slide, please. That's just an aerial shot of the treatment plant. So next slide. Here's a new project that we'd just like to highlight, is the Archboyd wastewater upgrade. This is a pump station and a pipeline upgrade at East Mangere. This is a project that's been a long time in planning and design, but finally, as of a couple of months ago, we had the first blessing and groundbreaking. So here's another project that's underway just in South Auckland. Another major project that's underway, currently in the design stage, is the North Harbour 2 water main. This is going to add a lot of resiliency to the supply of water in the west and the north of Auckland. We are doing some initial work around the Greenhithe Bridge crossing. We'd like to get some work underway there so we can get another pipe over the bridge. But you can see the route runs basically the whole way from Titirangi all the way over to Rosedale.
Yeah, so the length and extent of this pipeline is similar to our Hanua 4 water main, which we ran from Redoubt Road through to the reservoirs in Kaipa Pass. And again, that was quite a complex piece of work through very complex and working environments. This program and project itself is very similar to that, working through, winding through the areas from New Lynn right through to Albany Reservoir. This work will be concurrent with the Waikato number 2 water main, so we'll be running effectively 2 large water main projects at the same time over the next 10 years. So very complex pieces of work, potentially quite impactful from a transport perspective, but we're working quite closely with our transport colleagues to find efficiencies and opportunities to work through this program aligned with their program of works.
Another project that's just started recently is the Herne Bay Collector. This will connect into the most northerly shaft of Central Interceptor. We're currently doing site investigations and service relocations along the route, and that we also have an interface here with Healthy Waters. This will be great to get this done. I think we're committed to completing this project by the end of 2028.
So this forms part of our Waitemata water quality improvement program. So it's connecting all of what are existing engineered overflow points that run along the coastline to this new collector and ultimately convey them through to the central interceptors. So what it absolutely will achieve a reduction in overflows in those waterways along the Western Isthmus.
So Central Interceptor. So massive milestones in the last 6 months was the final tunnel boring machine breakthrough at Herne Bay. That was in early March. So thanks to everyone that came out for that. The southern system is in operation and has been operating since January. And the northern tunnel is getting finished out. All the connections in the north are getting made. We're still on track for bringing in the additional flow from the north around the middle of next year. We did have some videos to show, but in the interest of time, we're going to flick on. The Southwest programme, so I mentioned the Waiuku and Clark's Beach work. So there's a new treatment plant going on at Clark's Beach at the moment, similar to the treatment plant at Wellsford. This project has also involved a tunnel boring machine, which we like. And we've tunnelled out into the harbour, and we're currently now putting diffusers on the end of the tunnel, which will be for the outfall.
So the Southwestern scheme provides servicing to Clark's Beach, Glenbrook Beach, Waiuku, and Kingseat, and so this particular plant, the modularisation we've achieved here, and I think the pace that David and his team have achieved is phenomenal. With what we thought was going to take us 2 years is looking like taking us significantly shorter and coming in under budget. So fantastic effort from the wastewater delivery team.
Okay, and final 2 minutes, the northeast scheme. So the new Snells wastewater treatment plant will be, we have an opening day, I think it's on the 15th, so in a couple of weeks' time. Literally either tomorrow or early next week, we hope to have turned the system on. We're currently in final testing and commissioning phase. Early next week, we hope to have the pump station at Warkworth activated, and we'll be pumping live flow into the Snells treatment plant by next week, touch wood. Next slide. That's just some pictures. Next slide. So just a last slide on a recent announcement around some upgrade and renewals work.
Yeah, what we'll take this largely as read there. I guess the press release has been made, and I understand that councillors and the Mayor's office has been made aware of our approach. In essence, we're ramping up our renewals activities. So over the last 6 months, we've got our house in order with regard to understanding our data sets, and we've put together a program, and we're about to start contracting a significant portion of our renewals work. So 75 million will be contracted before Christmas. And that is us, so happy to take questions.
Oh, thank you. We have a number of questions, starting with the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. That was a very interesting presentation. $3.8 million a day in investment, which is pretty impressive, by the way. Look, I've just got a short question on the Orake sewer. So that poor guy is getting under there and relining it. Are you looking at the whole structure of the Orake sewer right now, or will you wait for the central interceptor to be operational before looking at it?
So we've done a lot of condition assessment already. The actual time, the best time to do any inline repairs like that is actually after the central interceptor is commissioned in the north, because that way we can take flow out of the Aoraki main sewer and limit flows. So from that picture you saw, he's working in live flow. The shallower the flow, the better, from a purely safety point of view, which is, our main concern all the time.
Thank you. Councillor Ferry.
Kia ora, sorry, just took me a little while to find the buttons. Right, thanks for this, and always love our water care updates, so thank you very much. My question is sort of in relation more to the work that you've been doing around the network capacity planning. And obviously we're having this very live discussion at the moment around these plan change choices, sorry, that's quite hard to say quickly, that we face as a city. We've got a big vote coming up on the 24th of September. And one of the things that people are raising, certainly in the questions with me, is around whether some of the housing that increase that is potentially coming in various specific locations, suburb-wise, whether there is the drinking and the wastewater capacity. And so I've been finding the maps that you've got for that and the work that you've been doing on that really useful for that discussion. I wondered if Watercare has any plans to sort of, I guess, re-up those, do some fresh comms on that, because you did release them, I think it was July was the most recent update, and I'm not asking for a fresh update because obviously that's a lot of work, but it might just be helpful in terms of informing some of that conversation, the public conversation at the moment, if Watercare were to be doing some comms, because I think that is part of the question we're getting. And I have a follow-up to that too, please.
Sure, thank you for the question. Excuse me, sorry. So, yeah, we are intending to have a further release of the map, so an update, in November this year. I understand that's behind the timing for the vote that's coming. But we're also working quite closely with the council team, understanding the impact or the population distributions associated with the intensification plan change. And then once we have that data, we'll be able to more fulsomely assess that data against the system's capacity. So not unlike what we did for Plan Change 78, we do still have a bit of modelling work to do once we understand what that population distribution looks like. But in lieu of that, we will be updating the capacity maps that we released back in May, and we've committed to doing that on a 6-monthly basis.
Thank you. And I think also, one of the things that I noticed for my ward in particular, and this will be reflected in other parts of the city too, but just to give an example, I'm not trying to be too parochial, is that some of the maps, are a bit blobby, which I expect, that's fine. But it would be helpful, I think, particularly for some of the parts where we are having this, very live conversation about more or less intensity, perhaps along the Western Line and the Southern Line in particular, to be able to have a little bit more certainty. You've got, for example, you've got some areas of the most of the isthmus is no capacity issues, which is great. I think that's very clear, but there are some patches where it says, capacity is there, but it's being closely monitored. And I think it would just be helpful for our public conversation if we could have a little bit more clarity. You've got some very straight lines there for sort of around Epsom and Newmarket and part of Mount Eden, but it would be really helpful to be able to point more specifically to those areas, to sort of reassure people, I guess. So is that information available and I've just missed it, that sort of zoom in, or is that something that could be provided?
That information is available through the GIS. So the map, the map that's been published is a very high-level sort of communicative summary, but there are layers to that. So what we can do is provide you with a bit more background and detail as to how to track that more detailed information down. And
that'd be fantastic.
We can do that.
Yeah, that would be really useful, because at the moment you name a suburb and people think it means the whole suburb. To me, that map looks very much like it's only part of Mount Eden in particular, which obviously is part of my area, but also it will only be part of Epsom or Newmarket or whatever. So having more clarity, I think, would be really helpful for those discussions. So what I've heard you say is that you've done the modelling for what was proposed for PC78, but of course PC78 includes what I'm now referring to as the big blankness, which is the light rail corridor. So what have you done about capacity mapping for that big whited out area where there's no zoning proposed?
So we haven't picked that up yet, so we'll pick that up once we start to understand from the council team where the distributions land, and once we understand that, we'll map our capacity on top of that.
Okay, I mean, all of it at the moment is in the no limitations area anyway, so it's probably not too much of a problem. Just be helpful, I think, again, for the community to understand that.
Sure.
So and then obviously we have other parts of the region that might be proposed for intensity under the new proposal, where that you do have limited capacity, and I guess I'm particularly thinking about the stuff we know about for the Hibiscus Coast that's had a lot of media, and my colleagues from up there might want to pick up on that. So we wouldn't know until November really if we did go with the new proposal, what that might look like, whether that's possible or not. Has that already been taken into account? That might be a question more for the planning people. Sorry.
Yeah, fortunately I can answer it. So we've taken in the current settings for the spatial plan is what we've based the capacity map on, and in particular that constraint for the Hibiscus Coast. We haven't yet mapped what that might look like in a different setting, so with the intensification plan change. So it was acknowledged through Plan Change 78 that we were going to have an issue in the Hibiscus Coast, which is why we have set up as a qualifying matter. But what we haven't done is map what that might look like if the distribution is slightly different.
Okay, and apologies to my northern colleagues because I'm not as familiar with the detail of their maps under the new proposal. Okay, that's cool to hear. And just, I guess, finally, a shout out for the amazing progress with the Central Interceptor. It's just lovely to see and I won't make a comment later, Chair, it's just lovely to see those parks in my community returning to community use, those portions that we used as yards and work sites and stuff, and those streets getting cleared up and the cones disappearing, and really looking forward to that happening for the upper Hearth. I think it's really important that we don't forget the significance of this project once it's all underground and not seen from above ground very much at all. That will be a successful project in this case, where we sort of, I guess, set and forget from a community perspective anyway. So well done to the team for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferry. I'm going to take my question next because it sort of follows on from what's been put, and that is around the updated network plans to clarify development potential across Auckland and understanding the network capacity. So Julie's referred to those and the information that came out. So the areas with capacity, the areas with capacity closely monitored, areas with limited capacity, with no capacity right now, and no long-term capacity, plus those areas that Veolia are currently responsible for. So I've followed this as closely as I can, and the June 25 map, when you blow it up, it shows a table showing when solution will be provided. What I can't figure, but wonder, if there is any relationship to the solution referred to and the impact on new development capacity provided by, what is still being proposed, that's Plan Change 78, we haven't changed anything yet. The map and the chart preceding the replacement change, and the timing in terms of months, you've told us likely November. So it's just trying to reconcile that you've put in terms of solution to those capacity maps and that modelling. There's a bit of a disconnect between the two. Can you inform me what I should draw from that, what conclusions I should take?
I would say it really relies on this follow-up modelling that we're going to have to do, and ultimately it will really speak to the size of the network interventions that we're going to have to put in place. So with Plan Change 78 and what we proposed through the maps and those interventions, they were based on the growth that was proposed in those locations with the population densities at that point in time. We'll just need to change that. And so what might happen is arguably some pump stations or pipelines might be bigger or smaller depending on what the redistribution looks like. So the programs are largely the same. It will really come down to the scale of the solution in certain areas.
So the modelling that must then take place, and that modelling, if you were to go forward and take out the light, include the light rail corridor and the assumptions that you would have to make around that. So there's quite a bit more information yet to be done.
That's right, we've still got work to do.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to that question, I guess my understanding from when the capacity maps came to us in the workshop, kind of feedback at the time was that it was quite difficult with Plan Change 78 because of the widespread kind of upzoning and the lack of ability to know where it was going to pop up. Do you want to just say that?
Yeah, so I think that was absolutely a significant issue for us. We just didn't know where this growth was going to happen with Plan Change 78, and that's why the qualifying matters were the scale that they were. They effectively picked up whole suburbs. But what we're, as we're going toward a different plan, which allows and provides us a bit more detail on distributions, but potentially more intensified, that absolutely will help us when we go to model to understand more, I guess in greater detail, the infrastructure that will need to go in place. It's not just a scattergun approach. We'll be able to be more targeted in our development.
Thank you. A couple of questions. Is it true that you're doing over 4 times the capital projects budget-wise than 9 years ago when the entry plan kicked into place?
That is true. So, this time 10 years ago, I spoke of the Hanua 4 pipeline project. That was Watercare's largest project, and as David described, we've moved from a project that was $480 million, and that was spread over 10 years, to delivering the CI in the same time frame, which is 4 times the value.
And the 13 billion you've got on the books, that'll probably grow every next LTP as well, etc. But my understanding is over half of that's growth related, and that'll be on top of the 120,000 you've already got capacity for.
Yeah, that's right. So a significant proportion of that is related to growth. As part of one of the charter projects, we are re-evaluating that split and apportionment between levels of service, renewals and growth. But at this stage, half of the program is growth.
And just the last question, if there are issues despite the zoning, and we're seeing it in Beachhaven, Hibiscus, other areas, if no matter what the zoning changes in an area, Watercare still has the ability to refuse connections and work with developers and property owners and whoever, and to make it clear there is no infrastructure until X number of time. Like, it's not just 15-story building goes up tomorrow and you guys have to find the pipe after?
No, the primary reason for releasing the maps was to create that engagement and support development decision-making early, rather than get to a point through a development and the developer is not really communicated with us or understands the capacity. And then when it comes to a point where they're about to build a house or lodge consent, you know, they receive news that they don't want to receive from us. So a big part of the release of the maps, a big part of what we're doing in the transparency we're creating from a network capacity perspective is to inform decision making.
And very last question, sorry, Chair. And you've been doing really great work on the fast tracks and the private plan changes, but largely, and I know it's not a complete science, but is it at the moment easier to be renewing and building for growth in brownfields than this continuous kind of new pipes in areas that don't exist yet?
That's a tricky question, to be fair. They're both complicated. So building new on the extremities does cause us challenges from a quality perspective, water and wastewater, but renewing infrastructure in built-up urban environments is not simple either. So, you know, some of the infrastructure that we are going to have to develop and renew and deliver over the next 10 years will be in streets, will be in roads, will be underneath houses. So both are complicated, just a different type of complicated.
But if you have to do the renewal anyway, is it easier to do growth at the same time?
Theoretically, yes.
So our speaking order is Councillor Lee, Councillor Henderson and Councillor Turner at the stage.
Thank you,
Councillor
gentlemen.
Lee.
Obviously, you've been very busy, and a significant amount of money is being spent. If the late Mark Ford was around, he would be certainly interested in the amount. I understand you're going to be borrowing $9.9 billion. He'd be interested in those figures, but he'd be even more interested in getting value for money. Rigor was one of his favourite words. And I hope that ethos is still carried by Watercare. I note the Clark speech, wastewater treatment plant is going to cost as much as what Watercare spent on the Mangere wastewater treatment plant, completely upgrading it with a completely different system of treatment technology without losing a minute of service. KiwiRail could actually have taken a lesson from that. My concern, though, is quite local, and it relates to your Queen Street project and the impact it's having on Queen Street businesses, particularly on the corner of Wellesley West and Queen Street, where a business is going to go out of business because of the impact, by and large, of the hoardings, the barriers that you guys have erected, blocking off virtually a lane of Wellesley Street, but right outside his shop. He says that his business, the patronage, has virtually collapsed since those hoardings went up. And so, from what I can see, there's not much activity going on behind the walls. Somebody turned up a couple of weeks ago, potted around, and then they took off. There's a ute parked there. There's a lot of stuff, material lying about. I just wonder whether, A, you need all that space, B, the walls could be made transparent so that people can see through, because this is what the owner, Andy Young, thinks is the problem, and that the project could be speeded up, because it seems to be taking a long time, particularly seeing it's underground, and this stuff is very much above ground. Whether there can be a smarter way of reducing the footprint to get this essential work done, with minimising the effect on Queen Street businesses, retail, which are in a very kind of a delicate situation right now, particularly after the closure of Smith & Coe's, which is just opposite. You know, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts, and Watercare has piled on, probably not realising how sensitive the situation is right now on Queen Street. Is there anything you can do to help this particular business and reduce the impact of your construction work? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So currently what's happening is the tunnel boring machine is working its way down from the shaft at Mayoral Drive, and it will break through into the shaft at Wellesley Street in about 10 days' time, 10 days to 2 weeks' time. So there'll be a lot of activity in the shaft as the tunnel boring machine comes through. We'll have people there doing some maintenance on the equipment before the tunnel boring machine starts again. So in relation to the hoardings, I mean, the hoardings are there of such a sort of scale, predominantly for the safety of everyone, in particular, you know, the public around there. We got a very deep shaft, a very open shaft, which unfortunately construction sites attracts interest. So we've got to make sure that we keep people out of there. And the way to do that is by, you know, having high hoarding, so hopefully people can't jump over or make it very difficult for people to jump over. The question around having, I think it was see-through hoardings or reducing the footprint. Yes, we can potentially do that, and maybe the time to do that is once the tunnel boring machine has passed. We will have some more work to do in there in terms of constructing the permanent manhole or the permanent maintenance hole in that location. But we can certainly look at the footprint that the area takes. I'm not saying it will be possible to reduce it, but we can talk to the team and talk to the contractor there just to see if there is any way. I mean, the construction sites are already extremely constrained. I think we've got one lane only. So they're very, very constrained already. We're absolutely, you know, cognizant of the disruption. I came here a month or two ago. We spoke specifically about Queen Street, and really the best thing we can do is get in and out of there as quickly as possible and get finished as quickly as possible.
Can I suggest on this, Councillor Lee feels very strongly that you can take this offline in terms of looking at whatever action can be taken. I'm sorry to rush everyone today, but we are running out of time. So, Councillor Lee, is that okay? And I cut Councillor Henderson off on the last item, so I better take him this time. So, Councillor Henderson.
It's okay, I've already forgotten about it. Manhole 10, Taipari Strand. I've got some emails now of some overflows and real debacles down there in Te Aute Peninsula, so I guess I'm just regularly checking in. Where are we at with the Northern Interceptor work? How are we helping out those people on that coastline there?
I'll need to come back to you on the program schedule. I know the Northern Interceptor northern sections are progressing well, so we're about to start pushing comms out more cohesively. David will talk to the schedule itself at Taipari Strand itself. I'll just check to see whether any of the CI influence, so now that Central Interceptor is live in that area, they've decommissioned one of the old pump stations, we were looking at some diversion activity. I'll have to come back to you, Councillor, and just confirm where we're at.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And now we have Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Just listening to the discussions and the debate, would you agree, or do you feel that water care is being used as the last resort of controlling capacity planning, out of control capacity planning? Like, you know, I hear you being questioned all the time, and do you feel that you guys are being used as the control?
No, Councillor, sorry, thank you for the question. But I think what we are struggling with is responding. So to change, and I know, engineers and planners get tarred with the brush of wanting to maintain some stability through planning. But on the flip side of that, too much volatility doesn't allow us to be efficient. And I think probably we are just in a time where so much change has meant that we've been responding and not responding through delivery of assets or service because there has been change. So I don't think that we're being used as a reason not to or for growth not to occur. I think it's just the reality of change and too much change.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That appears to be the extent of the questions. So Mr. White and Ms. Pereira, thank you so much. Councillors, I will move that we receive the update from Watercare, and I have a seconder in the Deputy Mayor. I'm opening it up for discussion. If there is none, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, say no. That is carried. So we then move